if this YouTube thing doesn't work out, I think I would be a pretty good police inspector.
It's time to... Ah! You shot me!
Hara Hara Deepram Vikshana Kana Kana Nade Bhashana Bahuvidha Karma Atmanishtam Kalpitam Hara Hara Deepram Vikshana Alasavihinam Savitam Patibalagatam Sushmanetram Satyayuktam Sarvada Susanyatam Surakshatam Susanyatam Surakshatam.
Servus Freunde, my name is ziemlich and Action Hero Biju is a 2016 Malayalam language police procedural. It was directed and co-written by Abrid, and to put it into a specific genre wouldn't do it justice. It has drama, it has comedy, and it also has a little bit of action. But the title shouldn't fool you. This isn't an action movie. This isn't one of those typical police movies. There's no superhuman cop, no intense cat and mouse game, no psycho killer case full of twists and murders. The title could maybe be read as our protagonist's wishful thinking, maybe his own fantasized version of himself. Nivin Pauly plays the Sub-Inspector Biju, not a larger-than-life hero, but more a common man with some sporadic traces of being pretty awesome. First and foremost, he's someone who loves his job, and who's completely dedicated to it. And there's just something about someone who loves what he's doing. I think there's this natural fascination to watch someone who's dedicated to something, and Biju is such a character. At the same time, he is definitely not perfect either, and I highly disagree with some of his means, which I will talk about a little bit later. He also has a very proud persona and seems to be rather full of himself. And that's both a little bit hilarious at times and also kind of admirable. Before we see the actual title on screen, there's actually another one, A Ride with a Police Officer. And that's what this movie is all about. Apart some brief moments in which other characters talk about Biju, we are at his side the whole time. And for the majority of time, that means that we are with him at a police station and witness how he is dealing with all kinds of different cases all day long. Again and again, he hits the little bell on his desk to call in his subordinates, to bring in the people who have some kind of issue, and then he tries to solve that. And one thing that makes his character so interesting is that he has a very strong self-image of his position, and when someone casually drops that a certain issue is silly or shouldn't be discussed at a police station because that's not really the right place for it, you can see Biju really boiling up inside and then see him kind of explode because he understands his workplace as their place to solve all kinds of different conflicts. Action Hero Biju unfolds by stringing all those mostly smaller cases together, and in that regard I do think that this movie kind of qualifies for our term of Malayalam chill. This movie isn't about that one big dramatic case that will have all kinds of repercussions for many characters. Instead, it's this slice of life observation of one policeman's day-to-day job. The cases aren't big or special, they are just regular, ordinary conflicts. A woman who's not getting paid her salary, an old drunkard who's exposing himself to the local women, some adolescents who are caught without license plates and helmets on, and so on. But none of it is dull or boring. It's definitely slow-paced and kind of lean back, but the dialogue and the performances by Nivin Pauly and also all of the supporting cast make this a very enjoyable experience. Apparently, the movie was introducing a lot of new faces, as well as featuring some beloved performers like Joju or Suraj Venjaramoodu. All of them contribute to bring this microcosm of the police station and a few outdoor investigations to life. In comparison to your typical genre movie, it's very down to earth and realistic, but it's also not completely, and there's definitely a heightened and stylized touch too. Maybe even a little satirical note. And especially in the first half, there's a strong comedic side to it as well, which culminates in this wonderful hero worship song Hara Hara. It happens after a pretty captivating case about a little girl who got attacked by a dog belonging to some rich douchebag. It becomes obvious that one of Biju's defining characteristics is his refusal to getting bribed, to look the other way just because someone could be an influential figure. And when someone is trying to bribe him, he completely lashes out, and we enter this little montage that shows him as this dedicated but also quite ruthless cop. It's a really entertaining and hilarious sequence, and this is also what I meant by saying that there's probably also a slight satirical touch to it. At least that's how I perceived it. Though it's always more difficult when you don't understand the language and when there are certain cultural barriers. But the way the movie portrays Biju's rather constant no-shit attitude and beating up of several people, I didn't take it completely serious. Because of the lyrics and the way it is all edited, I felt there was some irony to it. It's very important to make the distinction between a character, what he is doing, what he believes in, and the movie as a whole, and what it tries to say at the end of the day. With a foreign movie, this distinction is not always easy to make, and I honestly can't say how much the movie, how much the filmmakers are on board with Biju's actions, or how much they just want to portray this kind of character that's certainly not that unheard of. From the many Indian movies we've seen so far, and from what we've caught from the news, police brutality is unfortunately a very common problem. I've read that action hero Biju was criticized for glorifying such means, and I wasn't quite sure while watching what to make of it. But I guess I just decided for myself, because of the tone of it and the way Biju was played by Nivin Pauly, that there was both an admiration for this character, but also a certain wink-wink to him. I perceived those brutal aspects of his personality as flaws. Flaws that I could understand because the movie does a good job portraying him as a full-fledged character, but flaws nevertheless. But maybe I'm wrong and that's just my take on it. Unfortunately, not everything in the movie perfectly clicks. The decision to tell the story in this slightly non-linear fashion with this one scene up front from which we then jump back a month doesn't really have a good enough payoff. In general, that particular case could have been woven better into the narrative. And while this might have taken away some of its casual feeling, a little bit more connectivity and a stronger pacing involving all those different characters could have improved the overall flow and power of the narrative. You could have also probably cut some parts and streamlined it a little bit. And unfortunately, Biju's love interest, his fiancée Benita Dominic, played by Emmanuel, comes across as a mere afterthought. Now, I wouldn't want to miss her because there's this wonderfully funny juxtaposition of Biju being this tough cop at work and then his soft, in-love interactions with Benita, with Biju on the phone, while in the background someone is naked and waiting for Biju's punishment. Again, I found this to be quite satirical. But overall, there's way too little about Benita's character, and the love song after the interval also feels very tacked on. The whole second half is missing a little bit of that sweet humor and charm of the first, and the finale felt a bit forced to me. But on the other hand, we get some really good small dramatic moments in the second half, for example with Suraj Venjaramoodu's character. So in the end, I enjoyed action hero Biju quite a bit, even though not all of its elements fully came together for me. So in German I'd say, auch wenn nicht alle Elemente komplett aufgehen, ist Action Hero Biju doch ein ziemlich vergnüglicher Film, der das Polizei Genre gekonnt auf den Kopf stellt. Nivin Pauly ist wunderbar und Hara Hara ein richtiger Knaller. I give Action Hero Biju 7 out of 10. It's more like 6.8, but I don't do that. Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about Action Hero Biju. And also let me know what is your favorite film with Nivin Pauly. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram and Letterboxd, and also on Patreon simply at TheJimmyCage. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.